All right, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle with another episode of Unlocking Your Inner Strength. I'm here with a longtime friend. We haven't seen each other in quite some time in person, but this is something I've wanted to do for a while. I have Tim Martin with me. So, Tim, thanks for being with me.
Hey, Kyle. Nice to see you again.
Thanks, buddy. I'll give everybody a little bit of background of when I crossed your path, and then we'll dive into asking you some questions. So, back in 2007, I was doing two shows back to back. It was only my third and fourth shows, I believe. And the week before, did pretty well in what was called the South Jersey. Then I showed up to the Mid Atlantic, and at the weigh-ins, I was feeling pretty confident about the shape I had gotten in. And then I see this guy who wants to be Tim. I see Tim up near the stage, peels off, and he weighs in. But as soon as I saw Tim, I just knew he was a world-class bodybuilder. So I knew there was any visions of being able to try to win that class, or whatever, were out the door. But I was really just, I want to say, in awe of Tim, because he was just, you could see, he was a bodybuilder. That's what he did. That was Tim's thing. And I didn't even know him really yet. And there's a lot of cool things that came after that. We'll talk maybe about the Team Universe coming up and all that. But just to watch really Tim go through his part of his bodybuilding career, I feel very fortunate to have witnessed that. So, Tim, before we get into that, just kind of tell everybody, what do you do for a profession? Where do you live? Tell us about your children, and we'll dive into it.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate the compliment first. Well, I'm a director of physical therapy for an outpatient sports medicine clinic. Been doing that for 26 years, and kind of fell into that because, I was doing something unrelated, but around early 20s got into fitness and lifting weights and started taking some classes in anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, and people in that program were in the PT program. So it kind of led me down this path. There's a little bit of overlap. Obviously, I deal with a different clientele than gym rats, but the kinetic awareness you have, the level of working out, there's a great overlap there. I live in Flanders. I have two gorgeous kids, twins, 11 years old. I do most of my lifting now in a home gym because as a family guy, you can't give up that time. And balance is probably the hardest thing as you get older. If you want to maintain fitness and bodybuilding and all that stuff that you love, something has to give. And with a home gym, you kind of mitigate that loss, and you can squeeze a workout in when you can, but the priority is always the kids stuff. So that's where I am today.
Yeah, and being, again, following you on social media and whatnot, I would say it seems like you're a very active father. So I give you a lot of credit for that, man. It seems like you're always taking the kids here and there. I know today you said you have a few games, right, coming up.
That's right. In the cold and rain, so it's gonna be a fun day.
Yeah, that'll be good, right?
Yeah.
Before we go into the home gym, because you were telling me some interesting stuff about that. When and why did you get into bodybuilding?
Well, I wasn't an athletic kid. I came from a family, a single mom. She had no athletic interest or background. I had two older brothers who weren't athletes. Music and academics was our family. So, I never satisfied that, I guess, craving or need. And when I started lifting weights, I had the cement weights in the basement when I was like 13, 14. I had Franco Columbo's book and Arnold's book, and did bicep curls. But when I was 20, I started working out with Buddy, in his driveway and garage. We'd lift the same workout 3 times a week and then run 5 miles. But the first year I did it, I gained 20 pounds of muscle. So my body, really kind of took to lifting weights. And, you progress there, you go into a commercial gym, had a training partner who competed in the IFBB back in the day, which is a natural federation. I went to see a show, and I just set the goal that I would do that. As scared as it is, the same thing. Like, I can't imagine getting on stage in front of people in a Speedo, but you put all this time in the gym and you want to get something out of it. So 6 months later, I did, I think, the IFBB Supernatural, something like that. And I think I got second to a guy named John Puskowicz, who was still around. The next year I did the jersey and I won the overall. So that feeling of success just kind of, it overwhelms you and you want more and more. And that's what I always looked at bodybuilding, kind of a linear progression from local shows to regionals to national and then pro. And it was just an avenue that I felt that I didn't have the greatest genetics, but it taught me, I just developed my discipline muscle, if you want to say. And I could outsuffer anybody. I could diet harder, I could do more cardio, I could push myself in the gym. And that kind of just led to more and more success.
What year was that, the first contest?
1995. So
95.
I'm 54. You know, I had been training for probably 6 or 7 years by myself before I even got on stage. You know, and after that, I kept competing. I think I've done about 40 contests, which is a lot. And like I said, you know, you win, or even if you lose, you know, you learn more from losing than winning. And if you lose, especially a tight contest, that motivated me like crazy to come back and prove to myself that, you know, I could keep improving.
Sure. In that first contest in 1995, what was your stage weight, if you recall?
We didn't even weigh, because back in the day it was height classes. I was medium height, but I was probably, you know, I wasn't tiny. I was probably maybe 180.
Okay.
You know, when I started lifting weights, I was probably 150 at 5'9". Yeah, you know, at 20 years old or so. And then at the end of my career, I was 212, you know, and you know this, the thing I'm most proud of in my bodybuilding was staying natural.
Yeah.
You know, and I have nothing against guys who use, you know, I follow the sport to a degree now. I love the classic physique guys because that's the look I would like to emulate. But for me, you know, I had success as a natural athlete, and then I chose to cross over to the NPC, but stay natural, see where I'd fare. Me and a friend of mine, you know, Chris McKenzie, we did the same thing. We were like two of the only guys who were doing that, who were going into open shows as naturals. You don't say anything because nobody wants to hear that from you, you know, at those shows. They don't care. But the guys that knew respected it. Some guys, you know, hated on it a little bit. But as long as you kept climbing the ranks and doing well, we kept going. And so then, you know, in 2008, I won the Team Universe, and that gives you a pro card. But by then I was already about 40. And I wanted to compete on the pro stage. But at 40, I'm like, why would I start taking steroids now? You know, I'm never going to catch up to those guys in size. So I said, well, I could be very unique and compete on that stage as a lifetime natural guy and, you know, see what happens. And so that's what happened.
Yeah, and it's for people that don't understand. I remember right away when I saw you, just the level of development you had, you know, in the posterior and just everywhere. But for guys, when Tim's talking about being natural, so most bodybuilders are not natural. I mean, they're using anabolics, you know, which is basically different derivatives of testosterone. And Tim would compete against these guys, Tim and our friend Chris, and regularly win. You know, I don't know if it was like that from the first time you did an NPC, but I remember going to watch you at the Atlantic States and watch you at all these shows against guys that were not natural, and it was amazing to watch. So, and I think you like you said, you just outworked everybody, you know, behind the scenes. I believe so. What was that?
And I think
like?
this might tie into what you're doing is, you know, when we just chatted before doing this, you know, you talk a lot about mindset. And if I could kind of hone in on that mindset, it was a really strong belief that I could outwork these guys. Like I didn't have that crutch of anabolics. So in effect, that made my work ethic harder, you know, stronger, because I knew I could do that, you know, and especially then you have a little success, you're like, yeah, there's something to this, you know, there's something special here. And so that was the satisfying part of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was, and that's why one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on was the mindset. So talk about when you know, okay, you're competing against these guys, and you're getting ready for the team universe, which I was fortunate enough to help, be there with you and witness that. The daily mindset, because most people have never competed before, but how long out from a show would you start getting ready?
I would do, well, typically it was 16 weeks, but
Right.
for that particular show, I competed in 2007 was a great year for me. We met.
Yeah.
I had won like 5 shows, which I had never done 5 shows in a row, but I won them all, and they were all geared up for the team universe because that was, in my eyes, always the goal. That was the top drug tested show in the country. I thought that established the best bodybuilder in the US. And it was always in my backyard. I'm a Jersey guy, that was always in the city. And I did that show. I came in, I thought I looked great. I think I got 4th in the heavyweights. Crushing, because on stage I thought I was like right in there. And the next morning, I did cardio for the next year. So for 2008, I trained every day for that show. And, I felt it was kind of my destiny. I would watch The Secret on the video, doing my cardio, just envisioning things. And that was a tough show because my wife's brother was getting married. And back in like January, I said, hey, I know they're getting married in the summer. Just don't pick this weekend. This is my destiny. I'm training every day for 30 years for this show. And they picked that weekend. So I couldn't even go to the wedding. None of my family got to see me compete, but I didn't care. Like, I knew this was my thing. And so in one way, it was a hollow victory because, my wife at the time wasn't there and couldn't share in it. But I really had this belief that I was going to win. And this was my goal, basically one of my biggest goals in my life at the time. And nothing was going to stop, so, going back to, what you think, it's all about routine, getting up at 5 every day and enjoying the cardio, wanting to do, excuse me, my dog, he's always in the way.
Problem.
Appreciating the cardio, pushing yourself, never cheating on the meals, and really kind of taking a meticulous approach I remember I would weigh myself morning and night every day, and then average my weights for the week and make sure I was losing on track, and trying different diets and stuff like that. Because as a natural guy, you don't have some of those benefits of, the drugs to get ripped and to maintain size. And, doing it for so long, you just kind of learned what your body was capable of, how hard to push the diet, that kind of thing. And so that's what happened. I think you were there that night. It was ended like, after midnight, and then popping back in the city the next day for pictures for NPC News magazines, like just kind of stuff as a bodybuilder you always wanted, and it was pretty cool to happen.
Yeah, it was surreal. Again, getting to partake with that. I remember, I think we went over for a cheat meal afterwards for McDonald's, and you had your trophy. It was kind of a surreal thing. It's a team universe champ, and
it's
like
weird.
you said, but yeah, it was really cool, man. So you talked about The Secret, and so would you visualize this every day, like leading up to that 2008 contest? Was that part of the process too? And when did you do the visualization? Was it just when you were doing your cardio? Was it just throughout the day?
I think it was all the time. Like my routine was to do cardio and actually watch that part of that every time. So it's fresh in your head. And then it kind of, it leaks in throughout the day. It's just always in the front of your mind. And, even the team universe, I knew there were guys that weren't natural. That
Sure.
show, it wasn't tested as well as maybe some of the pro natural organizations. So you have to tell yourself, it doesn't matter. I don't care who's taking what, I'm going to work out harder than them. And, that certainly carried through into the IFBB when I knew I'd be the only guy who wasn't taking steroids on stage. so you really have to, it's a matter of convincing yourself that it's okay. And, on one hand, if I don't win, it doesn't matter because, how could I win? But on the other hand, say, you know what, I have that discipline muscle developed so hard in me that it doesn't matter. Like I might be the biggest guy, but I'm going to show up as the most ripped guy, and the judge is going to reward that. And, they really did. Like I have to say, one of our mutual friends who passed away, John Kemper, he was like New Jersey bodybuilding. He owned Diamond Gym, and he was always a fixture on these IFBB judging panels. And he knew my story. He knew. The other judges don't know me. They don't know if I'm taking stuff or where I came from. But John Kemper always respected what I did, that I was a natural guy and not afraid to compete against these other dudes. And I always felt that it wasn't that he gave me favoritism, but he would make sure that I got a decent call out, and I could fight for my placing. So I really appreciated John for that. Bodybuilding is such a subjective sport, and in every show, whether you win or lose, there's some politics going on, and that's the one time I think the politics were in my favor, because I had this judge who knew my story and almost kind of wanted to reward me a little bit for it, because he knew how hard it was.
Yeah, and that's a cool thing, man. It's it's amazing again to see that. And when you got to the IFBB pros, how many times did you compete up to that level? Did you actually do competitions? And what was the best as far as the placing went that you did?
I did 5, and I was never going to win. These guys, you compete against Flex Lewis and Jose Raymond, and what are you going to do? So you saw me the first one I did down in Atlantic City. It was a big show. There were 22 athletes, and I got 11th, which, listen, I was in the top half. I was like, this is great. The next year I did one in Connecticut, Europa, and I think there were like maybe 50 guys, and I got 4th. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I thought I wasn't, this was bad on me. I thought I was going to be, middle of the pack or lower. And the top 3 pose at night, and the top 3 qualified for the Olympia back then. I didn't think I was even close. So I drove home after, it didn't matter, but I got 4th. I was elated. So then I took time off because I had my kids, and that was my priority. And then I always had said, like most bodybuilders, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if your kids could see the process, when they were old enough. And so, a bunch of years later, 2016, I did my last year, and I did 3 contests all around the country. I did a Pittsburgh. By then they had classic physique. So I'm like, let me try classic because I'm not big, but maybe I can do okay. And I got 2nd in the Pittsburgh. And then I went down to Florida the next week, and I think I got 4th also at the classic physique. And then I still love bodybuilding, and for me in my physique, like my glutes were always really strong, and you can't show that in classic back then. So I did another 212, and I didn't do great. I got like 12th out of 16. I knew then the writing was on the wall that my body was just kind of too old for it. And that was the last I did. I got out of bodybuilding what I wanted. I didn't want to hang out and do masters contests. That just wasn't for me. So I was satisfied. I did my 40 shows, did 5 pro shows, did pretty well. And, but I'll always work out. I love working out. There's not a day where I have a workout that's a bad one. I feel great when I do it. I can still, push some good weight and challenge myself that way. Nowadays, it's maybe for the Instagram likes, I'm home in my home gym alone. I'm not showing off for anybody, but if I set up a camera, I'm 20% stronger, and I can get a great set. And so that's my motivation.
Yeah. And watching some of your workout videos, the clips, I should say, you're still incredibly muscular. Saw one recently, I don't know, maybe it's 2-3 weeks ago. You're still shredded. right? So as long as I've known you, it seems like you're pretty much always in shape, meaning it doesn't seem like you ever like a lot of even though you may not be competing anymore, a lot of bodybuilders would get fat or whatnot, or just don't look like a bodybuilder. But you are what I would consider the definition of a bodybuilder, even though you're not competing. That always being in shape and always being muscular. Is it still the same mindset that, hey, like you're training for life? I think you said in one of them, like you're just
Yeah,
training for life. Like,
yeah.
what's the mindset now?
We're as bodybuilders, you're taught to bulk up in the off season with hopes you're going to get a few more pounds of muscle and then chisel it down for the show. When I finished competing, you know, you put all these years of lifting in, and you're like, why not just walk around with my trophy all the time? So I like cardio. I don't do an hour cardio anymore, but I'll kick my ass during like the skier or the rower or the treadmill for 20 minutes hard to maintain shape. So I don't let my weight fluctuates maybe 5 pounds, but I always try to stay lean. That's the goal. If you're a weightlifter and you're doing more for aesthetics, why would you cover that with all that fat? So I enjoy being pretty lean. I eat my bodybuilding diet now still. My food is the same from breakfast maybe till late afternoon, and then for dinner I'll have a reasonable dinner where I can go out to eat or whatever. But it's, you do it for so long, that's just part of who you are, and you enjoy it. Like, at work I don't have a lot of time to go out to eat or anything in the middle of the day, so I pack my chicken and asparagus and rice, and I wolf it down, and I'm satisfied because my belly's full. I ate something healthy, and I'm not stressed about eating, and that's just work for me. And the bonus is that it keeps you in good shape.
Sure. And are you still, as far as that goes, because I remember back again, just picking your brain when I was fortunate enough to train with you for a little while at the World Gym, right, in Rockaway.
Yeah, since
Travel up.
closed.
That's what I heard, man. That was a cool spot, though, man. That was a neat spot. You would be, I want to say, like you would be taking in like 4,200 calories a day, if I recall, or I can't. It was a lot of food. It seemed like.
Yeah, that's probably when I was fat. The off-season bulking, and we all take those progress pictures. And I was getting rid of a computer one time, and I ran across some of those off-season progress. And I'm like, oh man, he's fat, like bloated. I'm like, I don't want to be that. I think that also got in my head, like, let's just stay lean. So now it's so much less. And I'm older, so I have no illusions of gaining muscle. The goal now is to take fitness, strength, and aesthetics into my 50s and beyond, and be a great version of that weight, or that age, I should say. Not trying to win a Mr. New Jersey, but like maybe I could be like the best 54-year-old out there. So that's kind of in my head now. If you're talking about motivation, that's one of the motivations, like, to look young for my age or whatever, and still be strong and maintain that. Because a lot of guys, I get it, you got family and job pulling you in different directions, and it's hard to maintain the fitness part of your life. But that's a challenge, and it's a fun challenge.
Yeah, it is really fascinating to get inside to the mind of a champion. I mean, that's basically what we're talking about here. You have the mindset no matter what, if you're competing or not. And again, you're in better shape than most bodybuilders out there still. Guys, you got to, and I'll make sure I give the links where they can follow you at the end of this. Talk about this though, as a father, do the kids, and I've seen clips of them maybe working out with you, like, are they taking an interest in it? Is that something that you try to get them to do, or you just kind of let them observe you and dabble in it? Like, talk about that.
Yeah, definitely the latter. When COVID came around, they didn't have gym class. Some sports were put on hold for a while. So I'd say, hey guys, come on downstairs. Let's do like a CrossFit type workout for a little bit. I love watching it, and you want your kids to enjoy what you enjoy. But I was very careful not to push them into working out. They're 11 years old. They don't need to be doing what I do. Once in a while, they'll come down and say, hey, see what we can do. But I don't want to be that guy pushing them, because I see the videos, and everybody hates on that guy, like, oh, you're damaging your kids. I don't want to do that. So my kids are in a ton of sports. You know, they're good, they're not great, but that's what you got to be at that age. Their goal is not to be the greatest person. Their goal is to enjoy it. At some point down the road, if they want to take it further, I would love to incorporate weightlifting so they can be better. I will tell you this. And how old's your oldest?
6.
Okay, so you're going to see this soon. When they're involved in sports and you're watching your kid, the hardest part is taking that drive you have and not putting it on them, number one, and also, you know, not living vicariously through them. I mean, this is what I see all the time in the youth sports, is these dads who, you know, for whatever reason, they're not athletes. You know, maybe they were in high school, but then they've had 30 years away from it, and they're living through their kid. You know, and number one, it's got to put a lot of pressure on your kid. But I just don't want to be that guy. So it's hard. You know, you want your kid to win all the time, and you want them to be a starter or whatever. And it's a struggle as a guy who was, you know, spent 30 years competing himself, to temper it back, to step back and say, you know, just do your thing, and I'm just here to support you. You know, I struggle with it every game, every practice, whatever. But at least I think I recognize it, and hopefully I keep it in check.
Yeah, that's self-awareness. And, you know, we'll come back to that in a second. But the self-awareness piece makes me think of, I know you and I had talks back when you were still competing. Just some of the people cannot separate themselves. You know, we talked about from bodybuilding was who they were. Like, and I think you were always good at, it was something you did at the very high level. But it's real neat to see that you're not, like, it's something you did, right? And it laid down a lot of principles for you.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It is also who you are. It has to be. You know, and this is where the whole balance thing, the struggle, you know, manifests itself. It's not just, you know, what you do in your life with your work and your family and your lifting, but it's also in your head. Like, you know, can I be more than just a bodybuilder? You know, my fortune was probably, I didn't have a lot of bodybuilding friends. I mean, we were acquaintances, and, you know, I had a couple guys, but I didn't live the lifestyle. Like, I wasn't going to the shows all the time. You know, I didn't have a big circle of bodybuilding friends. Just wasn't my thing. So, you know, and the frustrating part would be, like, you know, you train yourself all year, you go for a contest, Monday morning you go to do work, and nobody knows anything. They're like, Tim, you look kind of skinny. Are you okay? You know, that's what I would get, you know, and that fucks with your head. You know that for sure. But, you know, I didn't live in a gym. You know, that wasn't my job. So, you know, that's where I guess I had to have balance. Like, I had to keep my bodybuilding kind of on the down low. In my home, like, you look at my gym on my videos, you see a lot of trophies. That's the only place in my house, you know, they exist. Like, nothing else in the house would ever tell you I worked out. And at my job, most of my patients have no idea I ever was a bodybuilder. You know, they don't know those things. I wore scrubs all day. So that's where I was kind of balance was forced upon me, I guess, you know.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, what I was kind of alluding to is, yeah, you never got sucked in, it seemed like, into the, you know, a lot of these people do it for the, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, whether it's the people adoring them or whatever, but you just went about your business, man. When you at, let's say, practice, are you coaching any of either of your kids?
No, yeah, I mean, and that's my thing. Like I said, I wasn't an athlete as a kid. You know, I played lacrosse a little bit, but I almost feel like I'm not qualified as a coach. And to be honest, also logistically with my job, I work some late hours, and I don't want to give up some of my time for working out. So I haven't coached as of yet. You know, I hope that changes. I hope I can be like an assistant coach coming up. But no, I haven't. And I honestly, I worry about it too, because, man, these coaches, I give them so much credit because, you know, they're devoting so much time, but they also have to, like, control themselves. Like, you know, you get the shitbird kids, and kids who are acting up and not listening or goofing off, and it would be a challenge not to like, bring these kids out. So I don't know if I have that in me, but we'll see.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, man. Do the coaches know though? Like, do they know your background at all? And if so, do they ask you advice for maybe warm ups or how to make these kids stronger?
Yeah.
Or
So,
they not?
people in my town, I think, know, because like I said, in bodybuilding, you walk around with your trophy, you're a bigger dude or whatever. So a couple nice things. I had one of the wrestlers who was a couple years ahead of my son. This kid's like, he's naturally jacked, and his mom said, hey, Drew, really, he looks up to you. Like when I met him, he asked me for like an autograph, that kind of stuff, goofy stuff. But I had him over to the house, and we did like a circuit I taught him how to do some basic lifts with Kale, my son. And that was a lot of fun. So I hope to do more of that. And then the other night, like, I guess in life and bodybuilding, sometimes you don't know who's looking, you walk in you're in your world, you're just tunnel vision. And I was at the wrestling banquet and I was talking to one of the coaches. And again, it's not something I talk about. I talk about it with you because you're asking me, but I don't want to be that guy who's always talking about the glory days. And I'm talking to this coach and he's a state trooper down in like Jersey City. He's like, oh yeah, one of my guys competed. And I said, oh, one of the dads from town competes. His name is Tim. And this guy who I don't know, it's like, oh, Tim Martin. Oh, he said all this stuff. And that was a great feeling for me, like some validation for someone, who I know socially in town can see that, yeah, I did my thing when I did it. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is neat because you are very humble, but you still, I mean, I have you on the board of advisors. I think I sent a picture to you, but tell people all about it. I'm saying, oh, it's the best bodybuilder I've ever seen right there.
Yeah,
so people know all around the state. But you're great at being very humble with it. Now with your home gym, you were telling me some real cool stuff. Talk about your home gym. How many square feet is it? And then talk about what you're telling me with Rogue, the deal with Rogue. How did that come about? I mean, I think it's really awesome.
Yeah. So again, when my kids were born, I didn't want to be driving to the gym, 40 minutes lost time every day. So I started a really small home gym and then I knocked down a wall and I made it bigger. It's not huge. It's in my first level. It's about 400 square feet. And the challenge with a home gym on top of finances is square footage. You have to choose things that are diverse pieces of equipment so you can do a whole workout, but you can't have a leg press and a preacher curl and all this other stuff. So I started, my first lesson with home gym is to buy quality. I made the mistake. I bought the Dick's rack and I hated it as soon as I set it up. It's all cheap metal or whatever. So Rogue Fitness is known as kind of the premier brand of home gym equipment, CrossFit equipment. So I started with a Rogue gym rack and I kind of built from there. They came out with a couple years ago this machine called a belt squat, and so anybody who hasn't seen it, it's a platform and the cable comes straight out the bottom and you can attach a belt and you can perform basically squats with no load on your spine or your shoulders. And so I bought that because I thought, especially for leg day, you can squat so much, but then like, what else are you going to do? You don't have all these machines in the gym. And I started looking at the machine. I'm like, damn, like this has a lot of potential. So I kind of MacGyvered some pieces and I started doing other exercises on the machine that was designed for just belt squatting. And I loved them. I mean, the movements felt better than commercial gyms. So I'd post them on Instagram and I tagged, Rogue Fitness or whatever. And last year, Rogue contacted me and I thought it was a joke because it was the owner of Rogue, Bill Henniger. And they're like, hey, we really are impressed by your innovation. How'd you like to come out to Ohio and consult with our design team? And once I realized it was legit, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'd love to. So they flew me out and it was just one of the greatest experiences of my life because I was there for a weekend and I had this team of 10 guys who were like hanging on every word that I said. Like, who am I? I'm just a home gym guy. And it was awesome. So I had a little book and I had sketched out all these designs. I think I had 20 designs, like various things, and they really liked 11 of them. And the way it works there is, they own everything. Like, this place is huge. It's 1 million square feet. They go through about 200,000 pounds of steel a day. I couldn't believe the scale of the thing. And they gave me the whole, tour, like I'm some kind of celebrity. Like, they showed me everything, how it worked. And so we're in the process of kind of releasing these things. So the first one they released, it was kind of a throwaway idea for me, but it was an ankle cuff that solved all the problems with ankle cuffs that I tried in the past. And that came out in the fall, and it does really well. I get 5% of the sales.
Wow.
But the big one is coming out now. And if you look on my Instagram page, you'll see a lot of exercises I do on it. And it takes this belt squat and it transforms it. And you can do about 20 commercial gym machine exercises on it that you'd never be able to do at home. So I think that's going to be the big one. Like, that's like, again, square footage being a premium in a home gym. This takes, 10 feet of square feet, and you got 20 machines now, and
Wow.
so they saw that because when they made the belt squat, it was designed just for squatting. They never looked at it the way I did, where this is a platform for like a whole system. And so that's the exciting part. I can't wait till it comes out. We ran into some logistical problems with suppliers with COVID, but they got a new supplier for my products, like part of the foam that's part of it. And so, I'm working with a prototype. I should be getting the updated prototype soon. As soon as I green light it, then it goes in production, and hopefully it's going to be huge.
Wow, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, bodybuilding, like I mentioned to you, bodybuilding doesn't pay the bills ever. Even as a pro, you win a show, it's paltry. Back when I did it, for a portion, I was sponsored by Muscle Tech. And so that had some money involved, but that was only 2 years, otherwise you're footing the dime for all your shows and all that stuff. But this kind of endeavor, they're kind of paying me for my expertise, what I went through for 30 years, and how I can look about the exercise or the body or whatever. And so that's a great little thing that kind of fell into my lap.
That reminds me of, it's really cool, man. There was a story with Picasso, I believe, when the lady ran into Picasso and she said, "Oh, can you draw me something?" Blah blah blah, and he draws something for her on a napkin and says, "It's going to be 20,000." She goes, "20,000? That took you 2 minutes." He goes, "That took me 50 years of experience to come up with that."
That's it,
Goes,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is what you're kind of going through, man. So it's really cool to see it on the back end for you. After the competition days, and you were always creative with your training. I mean, you were always very well thought out with that, and you were always, I think, really kind of innovating within the gym, which was always an inspiration to me. At this point, what would you say for anybody out there that, okay, so not bodybuilding aside, if they want to succeed in something, if they've got a dream and they want to go for something, what's the number one thing, piece of advice you would give them?
This is not my expertise, but I would say self-belief. You got to believe that there's something special about you. And, when you think about that, you can say, boy, am I an egotist or something? Like, am I right in thinking that there's something special? But yeah, there is something special. Like, if you believe it, it gets better, it gets stronger. So I always believed that there was something special about me in bodybuilding, right? Like, I didn't have the greatest genetics, but I believed that I could work and I could, just focus better, and I could be special and not take steroids and do these shows. And that kind of became self-fulfilling. It gave me power to do those things. Believing in it, it's kind of a synergistic thing. It makes it stronger. So whether, I don't know what endeavor you are, like, even my job as a physical therapist, COVID has been rough. We had to lay off some people. And then as the volume came up, I see crazy volume today, but I believe that I can do it. Like, and I know other guys can't, so, because I've had so many people under me over 25 years, and I can see what their productivity can be. I know I can do it, and that helps you get through the day. When you have 25 patients, you're like, yeah, but I'm special, I can do it. And, that's what helps. So,
Yeah.
just the self-belief wherever you're going, whether you got to study more or work harder, it makes it easier to do that.
Self-belief. That's spot on, man. A couple more questions before I let you get to the workout. I know that's probably a big part of your Sunday morning routine. What time, like, just real quick about like the importance of rest or sleep. So I'm imagining you've always been disciplined with that. You said you get up at 5. I don't know if that's still something you practice or whatnot, but like how important was sleep to you, and is it to you, and what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I'm not a night owl. With kids for the last 11 years, I try to get them to bed, now by 10, which seems kind of late, but I'm right there with them, because I know I'll pay the price the next day. And, as you get older, you probably need a little more recovery. One thing that I discovered last year, I know you've done it too, and I got to get back into it, was cold therapy.
Oh, yeah.
So I started with the cold showers, hated it, tried ice bath in my jacuzzi tub, hated it, but I kept watching. There were some athletes who were doing it, and of course watched the Wim Hof stuff. And so I built a cold plunge on my patio out of a horizontal freezer. I waterproofed it. I got the ozone maker and the pump and all this stuff. And I've got like the Rubbermaid enclosure, so it's, weatherproof. And you keep the water, I keep it about 34 degrees. And you go in there, and it's like a drug, man. It energizes you. Like the feeling, people ask why you do it, and I'm like, when I got out, I can feel like I'm run through a brick wall. It's in your brain. You're like, because you know how hard it is. Like anybody who wants to try a cold shower, just crank the water all the way on cold and see how long you can handle. Like you're gonna hyperventilate, you can't breathe. This is 10 times colder than that.
Oh yeah.
And for the average person, if they jumped in, they wouldn't last 20 seconds. But it's a muscle in your brain that you develop. You learn to do the breathing and control your emotions. And you can sit in there for 10 minutes and not even be cold. And you get out and everything is better. Your mind is better. Your body feels great. You do sleep better. So I'd recommend, people at least try the cold shower part and see if you want to go down that path. It's easy. I built a cold tub, for probably $600, and those things cost thousands if you buy like a designated cold plunge. But I want to get back into it again with my situation. I had to shut it down for the winter, but I want to, it's time, and hopefully keep it going year round from now on.
Yeah. And what time of day would you do that, Tim?
I never did it in the morning. I don't know if I could. I wasn't ready for that because that's tough. I would do it like after work. You don't want to do it right after your workout, but I'd try to work out and then maybe like hour later, just go in there for my 5 to 8 minutes. It doesn't take much time. Makes you feel incredible. And one other weird thing was in the summer on these 95-degree days in Jersey when it's humid, you do a cold plunge in the morning, you don't sweat the rest of the day. It's bizarre. It keeps even though it's 8 minutes, it keeps you like comfortable. Like I never heard anybody else talk about that, but I found that to be true. And
wow.
That's one more benefit of it.
That's cool, man. Do you have pictures up of that on your Instagram?
Yeah, I got on my Instagram. Right. I put a little bit on like how I set it up. If anybody wants to dig deep into it, from a couple months ago. But again, it's not very expensive, but it's well worth it.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out, man. I'm intrigued by that. Okay, last I got like 2 more for you. If you were to go back and give yourself at 20 years old advice, the old 20-year-old Tim Martin, what would you tell him?
Don't second guess yourself so much. In bodybuilding, if that's what we're talking about, you're always wondering, is this the right workout program? Is this the right diet? Could I be doing something better? And while those are valid questions, they stress you out. And as long as you work hard and work as hard as you know you can, you're going to have success. It doesn't have to be perfect because there's no perfect routine. You know, when I did shows, like I said, I did 40 contests. I probably did something different every single time I prepped. They all worked because I was disciplined. I believed in it. And, you know, if you have discipline over a period of time, you're going to have success. So, you know, I would have done less second guessing back in the day if I knew that from today.
Okay. Don't second guess yourself so much. And that's cool for people to probably hear you say, because again, they probably hear someone like you or see someone like you and think that you don't have the same battle in your mind that other people have had.
You know, it's tough. Like in that endeavor, you're being judged on who you are. You're up on stage in a tiny bathing suit, basically, and it's tough on your ego if you don't do well. Like you see it all the time. The guys who don't make first call out, their faces are crushed because they worked for 4 months for this moment. And in 2 minutes, they realize their dream is crushed, you know? But it is what it is. And the other thing is, like I said, you learn more from your failures than your successes. You know, when I would compete, I would get way more satisfaction taking third in a lineup of 20 good guys than winning with 4 decent guys. You know,
Sure.
The placement doesn't validate your success. How you perceive, you know, the work you did, the package you brought to the stage, that's the real indicator of a successful year. You know, there's going to be guys who are better, you know, better genetically. They took more drugs, whatever. They knew the judges, you know, there's all these things that you can't control. So placement really didn't matter. It's nice. It's a feather in the cap to get a big trophy. But as long as you improve and you know deep down that you did everything you could have done, there's the victory.
That's the victory in the process, right?
Yeah, yeah. I loved, you know, I loved the process. Like I didn't like posing. Like I'm not one of those guys who like is a showman. You know, that was my least favorite part. I loved getting ready, seeing progress every week, and then the prejudging where you're really like, I always made the analogy, it must be like a prize fight. Like you and I could be friends, but I wanted to kick your ass when we competed because
Yeah.
I size everybody up backstage and I'm like, fuck them, man. They're trying to get what's mine. And there was a great feeling, like just going out there and fighting for it, you know? So that was the fun part of it.
Yeah, I think one last memory I have, you know, the show that I met you at, you went up against the guy Sheldon in the overall. Do you remember Sheldon?
I do.
He was a light heavyweight, and you guys, and he was phenomenal too. So I remember sitting there in the audience at that point, right? You know, the show is over for me, and just watching you guys go at it, and then obviously you beat him. But that was cool, man. You could see the mindset you had to go up against him, and I could tell he was very confident too.
Oh
You know,
yeah, yeah.
you know, but you beat him,
yeah.
man.
That was easily the best part of competing is, you know, like I said, I wasn't an athlete growing up. So that's where I got that fix. You know, you're on stage, it's, you know, you against them, and you know, who's going to get it. And that was so much fun.
Yeah, it really was, man. Last one I got for you, Tim, is 5 years from now, what do you see for your life?
I mean, that's a personal question. You know, I'm going through a transitional phase right now. And like I said, you know, anybody who's, you know, later in life, you know, we all have struggles personally, family, work. You know, and one thing, bodybuilding, like I said, it taught me I always believe I could outsuffer people. That can be a bad trait too, because, you know, in your life, sometimes you suffer when you don't have to. You know, you think you have to do something and just suffer. And, you know, this year I said, you know, kind of enough of that. I want to be happy in all aspects of my life. So, I've made some changes. They're good, positive, feel a lot of hope. It's like a second life going on for me right now. So I'm really excited in 5 years. Who the fuck knows? But I know it's going to be good, And as an Asian guy, what are you in your early 40s?
I'm 40 now. Yeah.
Okay. There's always like that finish line, like how many more years do I have? But fitness, that's your job. It's been a part of my job. It keeps you young, man. And so I'm 54. I honestly feel like I'm in my young 30s physically. You got some aches and pains, but I'm capable of doing all the things I could do when I was 30. So, at 54, it's kind of late to make changes in your life, but I'm pretty confident that I'll be around for a while and I can just really thrive and have fun with people and my kids for sure. It's exciting watching them in these next 5 years. So, I'm getting kind of a second chance going on. So I'm just really excited.
Yeah, man.
Things are going good.
That's inspiring, Tim, to hear you, make that decision at this point in your life to, you're going to be happy in all phases of your life. Again, anybody, I don't care if you have a bodybuilding background or not, that's a great mindset to have and something to aspire to, but I'm not surprised that you've turned that switch, it's anything you put your mind to, like we've been talking about, you do. So, I'll be excited to follow that journey. Where can people, like on Facebook and Instagram, is it, give them like, how can they follow you? Is it just Tim Martin? Is it at, like, what's your Instagram name? I don't recall off the top of my head.
Yeah, my Instagram is Pro Tim. I stole that from Skip LaCour back in the day. He was a little bit of a mentor of mine. He was Pro Skip. So when I turned pro, I changed it to Pro Tim. Easy to remember. And that's basically, just workout stuff, home gym ideas. Some of them, my kids, my dog, who's a star. He's a bigger star than I am on that. And then Facebook, there's probably a link. I don't know how you do it, Tim Martin.
Yeah, I'll get it in there.
The Facebook is more my family, so you might not be interested in that. But the Instagram, that's my rogue stuff, and it's stupid. I'm probably too old to be on social media, but again, it motivates me. It's led me to some nice things, so I'll keep doing it.
All right, man. I'll definitely get that in there. And this has been awesome, Tim. You still remain an inspiration to me, and I hope a lot of other people are going to see this and get the same feeling. So thank you once again.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, man. Let me just bring this to a close.